Okay, well, thank you for being on. My name is Brian Stevens. I'm the host of the National Real Estate Post and an owner in Pre-App 1003 and Listing Booster. And so today we're going to be talking about, for the next hour or so, lead conversion. Um, as one of the people who's constantly looking at the back end of Listing Booster, which, by the way, generates over 100,000 leads a month, I'm constantly getting reports from our team showing me like these leads that are coming in. And what I realize is most of these leads are going uncalled, not responded to. And I find that frustrating. In fact, I'll tell you this right now, is we have companies, third parties, who approach us on a regular basis asking to buy our leads. So I can sell, 10 months worth, a million leads. I can sell those for pennies on the dollar. And what these third parties will do is they will call all those leads to find out who's still buying a house or who's still interested in buying a house, turn those into good leads, and then they'll resell them. So a lead is a commodity. It could be with Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin, Listing Booster, a whole bunch of different companies. But understand, a lead is nothing but a commodity. Now, to let you know, we don't sell any leads off. So what I see on a monthly basis is all this great potential which is being flushed down the drain. And the reason I know it's flushed down the drain is because I know enough loan officers who are working these deals on a regular basis and actually getting business out of it. So understand my perspective here. I have a product that's going to generate a ton of leads for you. And I have this loan officer who says, these leads are shit. And I have this loan officer who says, I'm closing 6 deals a month off of this. Well, the only difference between this guy and this guy is how they approach their leads. So why is it that people are all the same, which, by the way, they are? One person can succeed and one person can fail. And it's because we have a different approach to our leads. We have a different attitude towards our leads. So today I want to talk about how we can take the leads that we have from either Listing Booster, our products, or your products you have right now, and try to get a better ROI. Okay, so we want a return on your investment. After all, everybody's interested in buying leads, getting leads, generating leads, working on leads, focusing on leads. But once we get those leads, I see a precipitous drop-off to where people simply aren't working them. There's a belief that once you get a lead, you've done your job. But the most important part of this whole process, guys, the bottleneck in the process is not getting the lead. That lead is a prospect. It's taking that prospect and turning it over into a client. Okay? So if we accept that that's a prospect and turning it over to a client is the most important thing that we could possibly do, then let's have a conversation about the best practices in order to make that happen. So you notice I have a teeter-totter up here right now. Okay. Now, this is something I was thinking about for a long time, and I want you to really kind of distill this down on a personal level. The quality of the lead is directly proportional to the quality of the loan officer. So I told you before, we have some loan officers who are converting at a high ratio and some loan officers who don't convert at all. Well, what's the difference if the product is the same? It is the quality or the disposition of the loan officer who chooses to work that lead. Now, if you're a loan officer who's closing, 7 to 14 deals a month, congratulations. You don't need to have this conversation because you're already good at this. But it's always struck me, the people who are closing 7 to 14 deals per month, or 7 or up per month, they're the ones who already understand this and don't need to have this type of training. So if we're on this call right now, what you're really trying to do is emulate the person who's more successful. So I hope you take everything that we're talking about to heart. But understand, the quality of the lead is directly proportional to the quality of the loan officer. Now, what do I mean? Okay, so let's say you have a shitty lead and a quality loan officer, somebody who understands how the game is played. That quality loan officer, by and large, will find a way to convert that lead. And let me say, when they convert that lead, I'm not saying convert every lead, but they're going to have a higher ratio of closings than you. If you look at any matrix that is built right now about lead conversion, if you're going to deal with a lead, which is we're going to call a warm lead, and we will establish what that is in a couple of moments, you're going to have a conversion ratio of 3 to 9%. Okay, but if you get a great loan officer, you can actually convert 30 to 40% of these. Okay, so a quality loan officer can deal with a bad lead and find a way to convert that. At the same time, you can have a shitty loan officer who doesn't understand the whole sales process and a quality lead. And of course that's going to convert. Because if we have somebody who comes into our office who's hell-bent on buying, they're already down the road in the whole process, and they know exactly what they want to do, and they're running into a loan officer who understands the nuts and bolts of the business in terms of, how to, design a deal, find a great rate, and close that thing on time. That loan officer who doesn't understand sales is going to take that quality lead, and it's going to work out just fine. Now, here's the problem. If you have a bad loan officer and a bad lead, still a warm lead, nevertheless, I'm not talking about calling the white pages, that's never going to work. So what you guys need to understand is, if you're a great loan officer, of course you're going to convert that great lead. But you can also get a higher conversion on those bad leads. If you don't understand the process of converting leads and you're not a great loan officer in terms of this, you're never going to convert that bad lead, and you will sometimes convert that good lead. And the reason I bring this whole thing up, guys, and I use bad language as a form of shock, but the reason I bring this up is because you've chosen a job of sales, and as a salesperson, your highest and best use of time is not necessarily pushing papers down the road. It's not necessarily finding page 2 of last month's bank statement. That's a job for a processor. That's a job for an assistant. You as a loan officer, you've chosen a job which is fundamentally sales. And sales is your job, which means you have to find out what's going to happen next month. So the most important thing that you can do as a loan officer is not structuring a deal necessarily. It's actually getting the next deal. Once a deal's in, we structure it and we move on. That's the best form of work that you could possibly be doing. So let's talk about what a lead is. Okay? Now, there's an acronym that works as good as anything I've ever seen, and I've been looking at this stuff for years. And the acronym is BANT. Okay, B-A-N-T. And that stands for Budget, Authority, Need, and Timing. And this is a universally accepted form of trying to identify who a lead is. So let's think about this. BANT. We got B, which is budget. Do they have the ability to spend? Well, in our case, in real estate, do they have the ability to qualify? Okay? So when you're dealing with a lead, we don't know if they qualify or don't qualify, right? When you're talking to somebody for the first time, that's something that you as a loan officer need to establish. Now, authority is a real big one here. Are you talking to the decision maker? Now, in any relationship, and I'm just going to be a little politically incorrect right now, but there's generally one person in a relationship who's going to make that decision, my wife, and so my wife. And so we have to figure out who that person is, okay? So if you're talking to somebody who can't make the decision, even if they qualify, you need to find out who that decision maker is and see if they're on board with a subservient in that relationship. Now, need, okay? So need, does that prospect have an urgent business problem or pain to address? In our case, do they need a house, okay? Well, they live in a house right now, but what's the disposition of their setting, okay? So has their lease come up and they're getting kicked out of the place? Are they living with mom and dad? They can't tolerate one more day? Or do they own a house and they have a closing date that's coming to them real quickly? Do they have a need to get out and a need to find another property? And here's the biggest one, guys, and this is where loan officers screw this thing up more than anything, is timing, okay? Timing. Is it the right time to buy right now? So, again, I brought this up a couple of days ago. You know, I just bought a newer car for me. Now, I knew I needed it because I gave my car to my kid. He blew the engine in 3 months, but that's another story. Okay, but anyways, I knew I needed to go get a new car. I drove my little truck for 14 years. So I said, okay, what do I want to get? I don't know. Do I want a Toyota? Do I want a Ford? Do I want a Chevy? I didn't know. I'm not like a car guy. So I started looking these things up. My office manager actually used to work at a Ford place, and he negotiated the deal for my wife's car. So I went over to Kean, who understands the whole process. I said, Kean, what do you think I ought to do? Which, by the way, is marketing, okay? He's somebody behind him. He's going to steer me in a certain direction, and that's somebody else's marketing working for him. So anyways, I sat down and I talked with him. I said, well, what do you think I ought to do? He goes, well, what is your need? Well, my need is my kids, when I had my little truck, was great because they were this tall. But now they're this tall. So I need a car that's going to be able to function as a vehicle where I can transport my entire family. My other need is I've got in-laws who are getting older, who are 600 miles away, and they have a beach property, that needs to be worked on, so I have to have a truck so I can bring tools up there. So what I needed was a full bed truck or a full cabin truck. Said, okay, now we went and figured out so we went and looked at the Fords, we looked at the Toyotas, we looked at the Chevys, we looked at the Nissans and all that stuff, right? Now, what I did not do is I did not buy the first car that I saw. So you go there, you look at a car, and then you get a salesperson who comes up to you and says, hey, how you doing? You want to take that for a drive? I could put you in this car tomorrow. I could put you in this car right now. What do you need your payment to be? And I said, back off, man. I'm looking. So his desire as a salesperson was to sell me that car on the spot. But that's not where I was. And so I just recently read an analytic that said your average borrower or buyer of any product is 57% down the road before they want to engage a salesperson. So let's put this in the context of buying a home, okay? So when somebody's buying a home, if you get them to bite on one of your marketing pieces, whatever that may be, doesn't need to be listing booster, but it should, what happens is when you're talking with that person, you want them to engage you to buy a house because their budget, authority, need, and timing is all there for you, but maybe their timing is not. Maybe they're just starting the process. They're going to buy a house, but maybe they're not going to buy it today. And the problem with your average loan officer is they look at a lead in a very linear sense, okay? It's a straight arrow. And you get the person, you pre-qualify that person, you get them approved, they see a house, they buy the house, you close the deal, you're done. Wipe your hands with it. Well, and that's, by the way, that's not a lead, that's a deal. But for your exceptional loan officers, they understand the process, okay? They understand that maybe what I want and what they want don't coincide. But you're in sales, you are the servant of the lead, of the prospect. And you need to understand very clearly that if you do things on their terms, and you adjust your conversation on their terms, then you have a higher probability of getting that person as a client down the road. So a lead, understand this, is where at least one of four fields is known. Your B, your A, your N, or your T. In our case, it happens to be the person who's raising their hand and saying, I want to buy a home, or I'm looking at a home. People who are looking at homes and willing to give their personal information over to you is somebody who is seriously looking at a house, okay? So when I hear people say this lead is shit, it's not shit. You're shitty, okay? That's all it comes down to. Because you're not willing to put the work in to stick with that person in order to get the deal. Now, here's the great part of this, guys, okay? The great part of it is your competition is not willing to do the same work either, by and large. Meaning, if you stick with a client, you can rest assured that other people aren't going to stick with a client. So if you happen to run across somebody who's 57% of the way down the road, and then you close that deal, well, that's great, and that's going to happen. But a smart marketer, a smart loan officer is somebody who's going to say, okay, I'll take those when they come across my car lot, but I'm going to be better than that. I'm going to stick with my leads that I have right now, and I'm going to keep in touch with them in a variety of different ways in order to get them when they decide that they're going to make an actual decision. Now, let's not be confused about this. Most people in the lending industry think a lead is somebody who has already established their budget, their authority, their need, and their timing. Okay? So when you get somebody who has that, somebody who's 57% down the way down the road, that's somebody who's ready to work with you. And of course, you call that a lead because it's working on your time, and your time is right now. But let's not be confused. That's not a lead, guys. That's simply a deal. Okay? So we're having a conversation about sticking with the people who've not established all four of the criteria that takes a lead and turns it into an actual transaction for you. That's the nature of this conversation. So you have to understand, it's not your time, it's your prospect's time. So we as salespeople, again, I said this before, we are in the service of those that we are trying to help. Okay? We are trying to persuade people to do something that's going to be in their best interest, and in the process of doing that effectively, we're going to be compensated. And again, I want to reiterate, the most important thing here is, if you don't close a deal in your time frame, that does not make that a bad lead. That makes you somebody who does not have the stick-to-itness to follow up with it. There's another analytic that I read just recently, and it said that 80% of the people, excuse me, 80% of prospects who turn into clients don't happen until after the fifth phone call. Okay? So 80% of the people do not respond to you until after the fifth phone call. So what does that tell us? That tells me that we need to stick with our people until that sixth phone call. The other part of that study said that 92% of salespeople do not stick around for that sixth phone call. Okay, so let's extrapolate information from that. If you want to be a more successful loan officer, and if you want to convert leads more, you need to be the person who's going to stick around for that sixth call. And if 92% of your competition is not doing this, this is literally a game of attrition for you. That's all it is. Now, attrition is that you're going to stick with it. I gave this example when I did my webinar on Tuesday. I gave my brother, Scott Stevens, as a lead to a loan officer in Northern California to a guy named Jeremy Forcier. He lives in Petaluma. It's a small community. You might even know him because he's a little notorious because he's completely insane. But he's a great loan officer. My brother is somebody, if he was a donkey and had 2 piles of hay to eat from, he would starve to death because he wouldn't be able to pick which pile of hay to eat from. So my brother was going to be a difficult sell. Nevertheless, I gave him to what I felt at the time was the best loan officer in my local market. Fast forward a year, I get a phone call from Jeremy Forcier, and he says to me, "Hey man, I just spoke to your bro." And I'm thinking to myself, who's my bro? You know, it's one of my friends. Is it, the term is used so loosely. So I asked him, I said, "Who are you talking about?" And Jeremy said, "Scott." And I thought to myself, shit, he's talking about my actual brother, Scott Stevens. And I said, "You're doing a loan for him?" Because I forgot at this point that I even referred him over to him. He goes, yeah. I said, "Well, why are you calling me?" He goes, "He put an offer on a house today." I go, "He did?" I'm like, shit, I forgot about that. So I hung up with Jeremy, and I called my brother. And I said, "Scott, did I refer Jeremy Forcier to you?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "How long ago was that?" True story. He goes, "About a year." I go, "How often did he stay in touch with you?" He said, "About once a week." Okay. I go, "Did Jeremy call you?" He goes, "Sometimes. Sometimes his assistant did." I go, "What did he say?" He goes, "Just checking in where I'm at. Hey, you still buying a house? Everything cool? Anything we can do for you?" He'd say no, and they'd hang up. It was a 20-second conversation. And then I asked my brother, I go, "Was that annoying?" And my brother said, "No, it was actually really cool." Because he knew that Jeremy was looking out for his best interest. Now, is that an extreme example, sticking in terms of somebody until their time is established? Well, yeah, it is. But there's a reason why Jeremy Forcier is always on the list of the top producing loan officers in the country every single year. Because he does this type of stuff. And we're having a webinar right now on how you can start to emulate the actions and efforts of the top producers out there. So you might have a misgiving or a preconception that if you call somebody on a weekly basis that they're just going to get annoyed with you. And I can tell you firsthand from my actual blood brother, Scott Stevens, that he saw this, as I often do, as a sign of consideration. Now, have you ever, as a salesperson, and I know I know Johnny and TJ and these guys over here right now, I know they understand this. I will actually, this is really bad. I love a good sell. Somebody who understands the product, understands the process, gives a shit about what they're doing, they're engaging me on my terms, and I can actually have a salesperson take me from a no to a yes, okay? My personal experience is I was going to buy a mattress. And I had the salesperson who was new, didn't understand what he was doing, and frankly didn't give 2 fucks about the whole thing, right? And I knew what I was going to... by the way, I was buying a mattress, so my need was absolutely established, okay? My timing was absolutely established. My budget was absolutely established, okay? The authority was absolutely established. This was going to happen. So I was the easy sell on the face of the planet. I had my idea of my budget, which was going to be $800 to $1,000 for a mattress. So anyways, I was about to walk out of this place. And then his boss came over, this young kid, He's like, what do you need? What are you looking for? I said, here's what I need. Here's what I want. I want something that's comfortable, something that's plush. You know, I don't want a hard mattress. I want something I just cave into and I fall into a pillow. We started talking about this. To make a long story short, I walked out of there with a $2,000 mattress. Okay, so somebody took my budget and they doubled it, and I walked out of there a happy person. So if you ever feel like you're being pushy in terms of what you're doing, understand that those prospects don't necessarily know what they want. What's important is you can identify the time in which to make your case to push that deal down the road. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, the first thing is you guys need to shut up. Keep your mouth shut as much as possible. Because here's what we do as salespeople. Okay, I know rates are great. I know it's a great time to buy. I happen to think the market's going to shift. I know the products. I am an expert in doing loans. Okay, I'm that guy. So when I sit down with a prospect, the first thing my inclination is to do is just to give it to them. Let them drink from a fire hose. Okay, and that's what we collectively want to do. You're thirsty. Here's a fire hose. Open up. Wham. There's no better way to turn off a prospect than for you to sit there and establish your authority and establish all the great things that you can possibly do. Because after all, this is their deal. This is not your deal. So your inclination may be to go there and say everything that you want to say, but understand that when you're speaking with a prospect for the first time, it's not the time to do it. You don't need to establish your authority and all of your greatness and all of your years of experience, because this is their moment, and frankly, they have a whole lot of shit they want to get off of their chest. So if you sit and listen to people rather than vomit on them, you're going to have a higher conversion ratio. Okay. Now, when you have the opportunity to speak, I'm going to urge you, don't talk about loans right away. Don't sit there and start to speak over their head and do a bunch of stupid shit. The first thing that you need to do is establish a bond with that person. Because as Jeffrey Gitomer once said, people buy from those they know, like, and trust. Okay? So you need to let this person know, like, and trust you before they're going to listen to what you actually have to tell them. Now, the reason I have a burrito up here, and I'll get real quickly on this, I'm going to check my time. Oh, is that I actually spoke with a person, and it was a cold call, and there was a burrito place that was local, and we both knew that, and we both liked it. Okay? And we started talking about this restaurant, and we got to know each other. Once that person knew me, and I had created a certain level of geographical competence, that person was more than ready to hear what I had to tell them, and that turned into an actual closing. Okay, here's another part. You always want to have a solution that requires another conversation. So when you're speaking with a lead, you don't want to hang up that phone without something else that needs to be done. So when you're speaking with that person and you're listening to them and you're asking questions of that person, what you want to do is make sure that there is something, some activity or action that you need to take to help them with their decision making. Now, the one I put here is just one example of many. You might say, well, I don't know if I want to buy. All right, well, let me ask you, how big is your house? Well, I'm living in a 3-2 that's 6 square feet. Okay, well, do you like your house? Yeah, it's a good size house for me, but I'm renting right now. Okay, then let me find 4 or 5 3-2s around $1,400 or 1,400 square feet. Let me figure out kind of what the payments would look like on that, what your down payment is. I want to get this over to you. Are you okay with that? And they'll say yes. And what that does is it gets you another conversation, and conversation is what you need for conversion. So always, whenever you get off a call with a prospect, you want to make sure that you have an actionable item in place in order to have that next conversation. Because the more you talk to them, the higher the probability that they, in fact, are going to use you. With that said, very quickly, I want to move on to TJ now. Now, TJ, I'm going to pull you up here.
All right.
And by the way, at the end of this, if it goes over an hour, what we will do is we will, oh, shoot. What we will do is we'll answer any questions that you guys have. Okay, so let me hand this off to you. And TJ, I apologize for taking so long, but if we can just keep this like on point and very quick, that would be awesome.
All right, cool.
You now have to...
So don't be like my partner in crime, Fisher, and just kind of get through this thing, all right? So, all right, I want to talk about 4 things here as far as follow-up. And Brian, I think this is really going to kind of flow into a little bit of what you have spoken about. Real quick, I'm assuming you guys are seeing my screen, correct?
Yep.
All right, so 4 things to talk about. The magic email campaign, 10 strikes and you're out, ultimate text message, and social stalking. What I'm really focused on here is taking those leads that we get and really, finding ways to start engaging with them. Kind of what you were talking about earlier. What you said, it was the 5th call before most people engage with leads. Man, and I've been working leads for years, both personally and managing, large teams of loan officers that are working leads. I can tell you, most loan officers, you're lucky, or salespeople, I should say, you're lucky if you're getting 1 call or 2 calls out of it. For the most part, it's you get that 1 phone call and they tell you how much the leads suck. So here are the 4 things I focus on. First off, let's talk about the magic email. So this is what every salesperson is looking for, right? That magic email campaign that will take that lead and convert it. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't exist. And I wish it did, because if it did, Johnny, if I can figure out how to get the magic email campaign, I'm sorry, but I want to go ahead and start selling that and stop selling loans here, because I get rich real quick. So when it comes to email, email, you have to have it, right? So, but email marketing takes time and consistency. So when you get these leads in, you've got to get them into your database. You've got to make sure you're marketing to them. When you're doing this, you want to make sure you're focusing on your content and your subject line. Oftentimes, I tell the story, once a month, every Sunday, or on a Sunday, once a month, I get 5 to 7 emails from Keller Williams agents. It's all the same email. It's the same subject line. They all come in within 30 seconds of each other, and I ignore them, right? Because it's obviously it's canned. So focus on your content and your subject line, and then in your emails, Brian, going back to what you said from Gittimer, get people to know, like, and trust you. Make sure you're utilizing video. Make sure you're using the Yelp strategy. If you're not familiar with the Yelp strategy, make sure you go to the Mortgage Shots website, go to the Kills. We have all the replays there. I think we actually did that back in April or May, that we had an entire class on the Yelp strategy. We'll also put that in the Facebook group for anyone that's there. But I don't think there's an easier way to get people to know, like, and trust you and to engage with your email than actually using video in the Yelp strategy. So make sure you check that out. All right, we'll move on here. This is 10 strikes and you're out. Now this is focusing on, frankly, just outworking your competition, right? So I'd like to take credit for this, but like most things, this is stuff that I have, that someone has taught me. And I actually have about a 50-page PDF on this that I'll look for and try to put it into Mortgage Shots Kills for us. But like I said, this is just about outworking your competition. So how this works is you're going to send out 10, or you're going to make 10 phone calls, 4 text messages, and 4 emails over 4 days.
Yep.
So we've got, so 10 to 20, or what's that, 18 contacts over 4 days with someone. So it's pretty simple.
Way, can I jump in real quickly?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're probably going to cover this, but I can't help myself. There's some people listening right now who's going to say like, that's too much. It's over communication. But in truth, we're not concerned about that, because we're salespeople, and we're in the business of converting. We are not in the business of like tiptoeing around and walking on eggshells. So we're in the business of converting. And what we've discovered is that there are certain people who don't necessarily want to have a conversation with you on the phone. So having that text message or that email is a very passive way to have that conversation. So you might call somebody 10 times and hang up and say that was a shitty lead, but they don't want to have that direct conversation. But if you do something as passive as an email or a text message, you'll find that your conversion ratio, once again, will go up. Sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, and Johnny might cover this, but, the guy who I'm trying to emulate in our company, Chad Priya, and we've had Chad on, several of these webinars, he calls it, the FU money. He's like, you follow up until they say F you. People raise their hand, they want information, we owe it to them to get in contact with them. If they don't want it, they'll tell us to stop. So anyway, here's how it works. So day 1, 4 phone calls, 1 text message, 1 email, random times. On the 4th call, you're going to leave your voicemail at that point. And then you'll also send out the email. The text message, I typically say get that text message out first, because that's how most people communicate. Day 2, same thing. Same thing, 3 phone calls, random times, 1 text and an email. Day 3 is 2 calls, a text and an email. Day 4 is 1 call, 1 text, and an email. And then after day 4, you're going to go ahead and add them to the database. But like you said, Brian, people are getting leads, salespeople are getting leads, and they're not necessarily doing this. They're not contacting these folks more than 1 or 2 or 3 times, and then they're just saying how much these leads suck. I can't tell you how many times. Look, I just signed up for BombBomb email. These guys have been after me for about 4 months because I signed up for a free trial. I know every time that they call my cell phone, when it's coming through, because it's a random phone number that comes from a city that's not close to me that they obviously think it is, trying to trick me. But the fact is, they kept following up with me. They send me emails. And they call me almost daily. Eventually I took the phone call. I had a good conversation with them, and I wound up signing up with them. They're good salespeople. We need to do the same thing. All right, so moving on. I'm moving quickly here. So the ultimate text message, this is something that came from Mortgage Shots Kills, which we've recently started implementing. And I'm telling you, it's killing us. This is from Stephen Gray Harrow. Hopefully I'm not butchering the name, but his post was text, text, and text. So I tried texting the leads I normally call. I sent a text to 30 leads. Most I've called multiple times, and some were new from today. I had 9 responses, took 1 app, and have 4 appointments. That's more than calling on leads all day. I just sent a message asking, is this person's first name? And they almost all responded. Then I sent the follow-up. You inquired about some home financing needs. What is a good time to get in touch with you? And things started happening. I just wanted to share, go get them. So we've actually been implementing this. One of my loan officers, Jason Iacovelli, who is super good as far as automation and CRMs, has actually built this out where we have this text message going out automatically. And the response ratios are just, they're off the charts.
And by the way, just real quickly, TJ, I just downloaded a couple of days ago a texting system where I can text from my phone. It actually connects my phone to my computer. And I can go ahead from my computer and I can type up text and send them to bulk people, and it's free. Do you know what that service is? Or Johnny, we spoke about this?
Mighty Text is one.
Mighty Text. Yes, no, it's Mighty Text. So everybody on this call right now, I want you to go check out Mighty Text. Johnny told me about this a couple of days ago. I went and signed up for it. And my computer actually told me, hey, your phone's at 5%. But it's interesting. For the free version, you can send out bulk text to multiple people. So if you have a database, exactly as TJ is speaking right now, you can send bulk text like while you're going through your workday. Like say you're in between 2 different tasks. You have 1 task and a second task. You can sit there and take a lead that's 90 days old, spend 20 seconds and say, hey, this is Brian Stevens over here at ABC Mortgage. You reached out to us on one of our properties. Are you still looking at a house? Is there anything I could do for you? And I can blast that to 10 to 25 people free of charge and then go on to my next task. Now, that's a great idea because most people, well, maybe they won't. But what if you get one person? That one person is good for $1,000 to $7,000 to each one of you. So is that the highest and best use of our time? Well, it takes 20 seconds. So yes, it is. If somebody bites on that, I'm not taking any time out of my day to do it. Mighty Text is a very, very, very cool tool. So write that down. And again, I didn't want to interrupt you, so carry on, DJ.
Yeah, no, man. Anytime. So look, text messaging is just, it's a great way to do it. I've got text messages saved, pre-written text messages saved I have an iPhone in my phone that I just use a shortcut for. So I've got this, is this, it just says, is this saved? I punch in my shortcut and I put in the person's first name and send it out right there. It's super simple. But just this simple text, I'm telling you, if you do this, this is going to change the amount of people you get into a conversation with. Now, once you're in the conversation with them, then it's up to you to do some of the things that Brian spoke about as far as actually working to convert these things from a lead into a deal. But one of the hardest things when it comes to leads, especially our listing booster leads, right? Our listing booster leads that come in, the opt-in leads that everyone wants to sit there and tell us how weak they are because they get 100 leads over a weekend and they don't get a loan from it. You start communicating with them, the 10% that come with a phone number this way, that's a real easy way to go ahead and start pulling some additional deals there. So, and finally, social stalking. Hey, look at that guy right there at the top. So this is kind of talking about the listing booster leads, the opt-in leads, which I'm obviously very partial to. When these leads come in, and Brian, I don't know what the numbers are, but I have to believe that 95% of the leads that are coming in from the opt-ins are coming straight from Facebook. I don't know. Personally, I don't see many that are coming from outside sources where folks are entering their email in. They're usually just opting in through Facebook.
Yeah, you're right.
You're getting the Facebook verified profile. So real simple way, and this is, my buddy Mike Fisher's big approach to this is take that person's name, punch it into your Facebook search bar, and take a look at it and see who it is. If it's local,
you know everything.
Yeah, there's a great chance that you're going to have some mutual friends, which means it's simple and easy for you to go ahead and send this person a friend request. Once you have a friend request, all you need to do is go ahead and start having a message conversation with them, a Facebook message conversation with them.
Awesome. This is awesome.
And that's what we're doing. We're salespeople, right? We need to have conversations. The more conversations we have, the more opportunities we have to ask for the business, the more opportunities we have to be successful. So there you go, man. That's it. Those are my 4 points as far as lead follow-up and how to maximize our opportunities to ask for the business.
TJ, I love your last point in particular. All your stuff is great, and if everybody adopted this, your business will get better. I hope you understand this. If you adopt what we're talking about, your business will look different next month. The last point is really great with the Facebook thing, where you're getting somebody you're getting their Facebook profile, so they're certified. You know this is the actual person. Once you get in there, you know the bands they like, the books they like, the places they like to go, their friends, if you have mutual friends, and understand that you've broken down half of those barriers. When you're calling somebody, you're that person on the other line, and people are conditioned to not like that. People are conditioned to accept friend requests and engage them when they're talking to them. So if you follow up with what TJ is talking about, you're going to get a much higher conversion rate. Now, next I want to talk with Tony. So Tony is from Seattle, from Spokane, Washington, and we had a conversation yesterday. Tony's somebody who's using Listing Booster. Again, caveat here, I just want to make sure you understand this is not a Listing Booster webinar, okay? It's a great way to go about it, but if you have any way of generating bulk leads, you have to have a way of converting. The reason why I wanted to have Tony on here is because Tony has been working the system for a while, and he was not converting leads, and now he's in a position to where he's having better results. So what I wanted to do is take somebody who's got boots on the ground, who's dealing with this right now, and have a conversation with them. So Tony, how you doing?
Good.
Good. So tell me a little bit about your story. So when we spoke yesterday, you said you weren't converting, but you changed some of your habits, and you started having better results. So can we tee that up and talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, so with the Listing Booster leads, I'm assuming most people know what they are. It's just a name and an email, if that. So you don't have a phone. You can't call them. You can't do all these things. So nothing was converting. And emails, we'd go through the first 10, 15, 20 days of emails and barely get a response. So about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I started going into having my agents go into a deal where they're inviting them to open houses, sending them coming soon things, sending them just listed, just sold. So basically, we're treating their email marketing like their Facebook feed. So it's, in a sense, all these real estate things that add value that are different than a recipe that we all get in our standard, like TJ was talking about from Keller Williams, the real estate market updates that don't have any context for people. It's all about just these emails once a week or once every other week, just adding value over 3 to 6 to 9 months. And in a sense, I'm saying treat them like they just bought a house and now you're trying to get them for the next year, instead of like, you're not going to convert an email lead right away. Just try and treat it like a 6 months or a year-long lead.
So, and by the way, if you're using Listing Booster, guys, you can take all your leads and you can download them as a CSV file. And if you have any means of communication, a simple email will work. But TJ brought up something on one of our previous calls as far as conversion goes. Again, we spoke about timing a lot. So the timing is you need to do things on my terms, on my time frame, and if not, I'm going to dismiss you. You're going to dismiss somebody who's going to buy a house down the road, and you're going to lose an opportunity. One of the great things that TJ spoke about was each one of your real estate agents has a CSV file that has, deals that go back 90, 120 days. don't be shocked that people will start looking at a house and not buy for the next 6 months. They might look at a house and they might think about it for 6 months to a year. You just don't know. I understand this because people want to buy our leads that are 120 days old because they know there's a lot of money in that. But imagine if you were to train each one of your real estate agents to take their own individual CSV file and they're going to have an open house. Well, what they're going to do is they're going to spend their money to market it. They're going to blow up their balloons. They're going to fucking put their signs out. They're going to do all their bullshit, right? Bake cookies. But what if they took this file of people who have at minimum said, I am interested in buying a house. You know that because you have their lead. And they took that CSV file and they sent an email to every one of them. Say there's 200 or 300 people in there. And say your real estate agent were to do something like, hey, this is Sally, Jones, and you looked at one of my houses over here on 123 Any Darn Street, and I want to let you know that I'm holding an open house in their neighborhood. It's the same area. And it's going to be on Sunday from 1 to 4 o'clock, and we've got cookies and all this great stuff, so why don't you stop by and check it out? And by the way, if you want to see the house before you come buy it, here's a link to it. And you take the single property website from Listing Booster and you attach it to it. Now, when you attach that single property website to that email that you're going to send to these old leads, again, how much time does this take? It takes seconds. I mean, how many second type of opportunities are we missing because we're simply not doing them? Now, if she sends that out to 300 people, let's say of those 300 people, 7 of them click on it, okay? So they clicked on the property, which means they're giving you their information once again, okay? So now that we have 7 people that we know we have engaged 2 times, which makes them a much better lead. Now, you know, a saying in the restaurant business, if you have time to lean, you have time to clean, okay? So imagine at an open house, if your real estate agent's sitting there and she's kind of sitting back and waiting for people to show up, she now has a list of people who've shown interest in buying a house more than one time. She can call them up. Hey, how are you doing? Hey, why don't you come by and check out my open house? So it's just making better use of the time that we have in front of us. So that's a great tool, and it's wonderful to hear, Tony, that you're starting to look outside of Listing Booster in terms of the linear sense, and you're trying to find a way to get more lead conversion. And again, I want to be very clear about this. This is what distinguishes a good loan officer from a great loan officer. The great loan officer already intuitively understands this. So what you need to do is take the hard work to re-engineer your brain so you start thinking and doing these things intuitively and, you know, just kind of spontaneously. You need to wake up in the morning and say, how can I fill my seconds and my minutes by reaching out to these leads? In between my tasks, I'm going to do these little activities, as we have been speaking about, because these little activities are going to get that 1, that 2, that 3 person, the 3 people who are going to reach out to you. And understand here, guys, when they do, it's not a $25 check. You guys are compensated richly when you take the extra time. Every one of these deals is not worth $100. It's worth thousands of dollars. I'm going to give an anecdotal story, and I want to talk to Johnny Fowler in a second here. But I was sitting in my house, and I've thought this like a ton. I had some guy who came by, and he said, I want to aerate your yard, which is pushing this thing with these little spikes, and they poke holes in your yard. And they're tweakers, you know. And so I'm like, well, how much do you want to aerate my yard? And it was like one of these Vacaville 105-degree days. And he goes, $25. I said, so you're going to take that thing and you're going to aerate my yard for the next 20 minutes, and you want $25. And I said, all right, I'm in. But I thought about this whole thing. He has to walk a neighborhood, a tweaker, and he has to get told no 70 times before he has somebody like me who says yes. And when he gets a yes, he gets $25. And for that $25, he has to work his ass off. And I've always thought to myself, why as salespeople and lending in real estate, why don't we have the same work ethic as a tweaker? Okay? Because the difference is you could do the same thing, but rather than get $25, you're going to get $2,500 for your efforts. Okay? It is, in fact, the same thing for people who want to paint, you know, your address on your curb. It's the same thing for somebody who wants to spray bug-begone shit around your house that comes to your door, who wants to sell you magazines, who wants to aerate your yard. We get these people all the time. And frankly, they are better salespeople than all of us because they're willing to put the hard time in. They're willing to do it because if they don't have any money. They are screwed, okay? So they have to carry this damn thing around neighborhoods every day because that's their skill set. The problem with us in lead conversion, guys, is that we are comfortable. And the worst place to be in sales is comfortable. Because you have enough money to make all your shit work for you. You don't have to walk a neighborhood. You don't have to do the difficult things. But the worst place in sales and lead conversion is comfortable. What I'm asking you to do is I'm asking you to become uncomfortable with your position, with your numbers, with your success. You're not great. You're okay. And okay sucks. If you want to be one of the great loan officers, one of the Jeremy Forciers of the world, what you need to do is wake up every day and look at how I could possibly be better. And the simple tools that we're talking about is the difference between good and great. Now, the last person I want to speak with is Johnny Fowler with Hancock Mortgage. Again, this is not a Hancock or a listing booster presentation here. Now, the reason I want to talk to Johnny is we had a chance. We talk lead conversion and stuff like this all the time. And he's built out some back-end products that actually really work to help loan officers and taking a lot of this off their plate. So I want to go over that for a couple of minutes. The reason we're bringing it up is it might be made available to you guys down the road. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. We're figuring that out. But the thing is here is that there are products that will do this type of stuff for you. So Johnny, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, sir?
Good, good. Okay, so I know that you one of the things that you do is you try to find a way to free up time for your loan officers. And some of the time that loan officers have to spend, and the things that frankly we don't like to do, is the follow-up, the consistency that Tony, TJ, and I have been talking about. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing as a template for what other loan officers can emulate to make themselves more successful?
Yeah, not a problem. So we do a number of things to try and help our guys, and it's all, I don't want to say it's very simple, but there are ways out there that you can do some of these things yourself without having to have, like I've got 3.5 developers sitting downstairs that when I'm in the shower in the morning and come up with a crazy idea for something, I can call these guys on the phone immediately or just wait till I get here and tell them this is what I want to do. So there's Mighty Text. There's a ton of those avenues out there to where anybody can do anything that they want to do. SendGrid. You know, if you've got Ring Central as your phone system, use it. Use the texting system inside of Ring Central. It works awesome. If you don't have Ring Central, look up Ring Central and get a Ring Central phone system. It's dirt cheap, and it's probably one of the best systems you can do. What I've done here lately is, so I've been building leads for probably, I don't know, 15 plus years. What I mean by that is when, you know, the theory of leads first came out, it was the lower my bills and the lending tree and things like that. And I was never a fan of those things. They were horribly expensive. Everybody was buying the same thing. Multiple people were getting the same exact lead. You're having to fight against your own, people in your area for them, and it wasn't anything that I ever cared for. But since that time, and since building leads and building lead systems, then you have this problem, especially like with Listing Booster, is you end up with more leads than anybody can humanly possibly keep up with. It's a great thing for Greg Peckman to have the bragging rights of building 16,000 leads in Listing Booster in about a 1-year time span, for Greg Peckman to brag about the ability that he has 2 Listing Booster accounts because he ran out of licenses on the first one. What's not good is ending up having all these leads and not being able to do anything with them. So follow-up is something that I've always not only believed in, I preach in and I stand on people's heads about. So one of the things we did is I built this machine, and what my machine does is it takes any of these old leads and it makes it to where it truly is converting it into a warm lead. So here's how it works. Go ahead. No,
let's talk about the 3 components of it.
Okay, so here's some of the stats that I use when I build anything. So we're told by AT&T that 90+% of all phone calls go unanswered. So to me, my dollar spent, my best time spent is not calling people manually, whether I'm using a machine, a dialer, whatever it is, because back, a decade ago, when we got a phone call on our, it was called a cell phone before it was a mobile device. When we got a phone call on our cell phone, we got excited. It was something that was going on. Now every one of us do the same exact thing. We get a phone call on our phone. We don't recognize the number. We roll our eyes and we send it to voicemail. So 90+% of all phone calls go unanswered. So how do I come across that? Voicemail. So if 90+% of all phone calls go unanswered, but 99% of all voicemails are listened to or read, my dollar spent is doing the voicemail. If 90% of all phone calls go unanswered, but 99% of all text messages are read, then I need to text message. It's common sense right here. If 90% of all phone calls go unanswered, but all emails are viewed, is what my understanding is, then that's how I need to take care of business. I need to perform business the way my customers want to be talked to. So what this machine does is it will send out as many as, so I built it to where you could supply a complete office where nonstop to where the phones would not stop ringing. So it will send out as many as 500 slide dial voicemails. It will send out as many as 500 slide broadcast text messages. It will send out as many as 500 emails every 2 minutes. 2 minutes. But it can also be dialed down to where it can send out one text message, one voicemail, one email a day. So here's what I do with it. Here's what we do with it. So we take our guys' old leads, and what we found with Listing Booster leads, what we found with Facebook leads, and not only that, our own data that we input, what we found is somewhere between 3 weeks and as long as 12 months is the prime time to hit these people back. We all like window shopping, but we all have that immediate no response. When you walked in, to buy the truck, no, I'm just looking right now. So give people that amount of time to get over the no factor to where they're back into thinking about, the home buying purpose. So what we do with this machine is we load these leads in. What we found out is about 50 leads an hour into this machine makes it perfect for any loan officer. So if I dial it in, and just like a normal week for us, Thursday, Friday, Saturday is when we run them for 6 hours a day, like for Chad Prio, his guys. We run 50 leads a day, and each one of them end up taking about 8 to 10 applications a day.
So what you're doing is you're sending out a text message, a voicemail, so it doesn't ring to the voicemail, and an email, and you're doing this. You can do 500 every 2 minutes, but what you're doing is you break it up 50 per hour, and so you can essentially. I want to get this across to you guys. Is you're taking your old leads. So let's say you've got, again, I'm assuming people have leads because I see a ton of it. So you could have 2,000 old leads, and you can drop it into the system. The loan officer doesn't have to spend any time, and you're hitting people in the means in which they want to communicate, either by call, by text, or by email, which is extraordinary. Now, just real quickly, because we're wrapping up here, and I want to make sure we get some questions, and we got questions for everybody. Johnny, I want to know, since you've enacted this, what type of conversion or success ratio are you finding? So are leads that are 90 days old, are you turning those into transactions?
Yes, sir. So I started out using it with people outside of my company, just to see how it would perform outside of the company. And all of you guys that are watching this show can look up the guy's name. His name is John Weaver. He's in Middle Tennessee. Right
you have no relationship to him?
No relationship. He's not one of my guys. I've never met him face to face. I've talked to him on the phone. I did a video, put it out on Facebook. This guy was the first one to reply. He didn't even have any old leads. He just had old data. So we loaded up his data. He recorded the voicemail, He put in the information he wanted in the text message. He put in what he wanted in the email, used my machine, we sent it out. It's been going for about 90 days. He's adding another 3 to 7 loans a month because of this machine. He sent me a message 2 days ago. He just closed 2 more loans off of this machine doing it, and he's not doing anything. It's one of the things that we have a problem with as loan officers and sales guys is we're positive. We like the positive. We hate the negative. So when you pick up that phone, everybody makes this stupid statement. I don't know why they do it. Is, you know, the more no's I get, the closer I get to a yes. Well, after about 4 or 5 no's, people stop calling. I don't give a damn what anybody says. You know, it takes a special talented person to put up with that much negativity. So this machine, what it does is it takes that out. If somebody wants to opt out, they opt out electronically, and you never know. But if they want to talk to you right now, they can text you back right now. They can phone call you right now. They can reply to your email right now. So John Weaver, look him up on Facebook, Middle Tennessee. So then the next thing we did, hold on, the next thing we did is I took a guy who's a 67-year-old branch manager of mine in North Little Rock, Arkansas. His name is Doug Nesselrod. You can look him up. We do Facebook ads here. So we put 1,700 old Facebook leads that were as much as 1.5 years old through the machine. Doug, who is very much a Southern gentleman, did the voicemail, everything else. We ran them through the system. We ended up getting 62 opt-outs. So that theoretically left us with about 1,640 leads. Out of the 1,640 leads, he took 7 applications the first day, 10 applications the second day, and he's having the biggest month he's ever had. This is a 67-year-old guy. So since then, we release it every week to our guys. I use people outside. Hell, I used Ryan. I let Ryan Stuman, the hardcore closer, use it the other day. He was making $1,000 an hour when he used it.
So what I really want to get across to you guys here, and again, Johnny's stuff it'll probably be made available. We'll let you know. We'll keep you in the queue on this because it's relatively new. I've been talking with him a lot, and it's remarkable because it does take away the pain of dealing with the letdowns of the no's. So we'll talk to you about that later. But what I really want to get across to you is that if you have some of these leads, again, think of your timeline and your consumer's timeline. If you have leads right now that are 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months old, believe it or not, there are people in there that are still considering buying. So it's worth your time if you have that time to lean, you have time to clean, to go reach out to them. Now, Johnny, I'm going to put you on the spot real quick. Can I hook you up with Tony? As we're having this conversation, I'm looking to the both of you, and I know Tony's got some old leads in there. Can we throw them into your system just to check it out?
I'll do it today.
All right, we're going to hook you guys up. I want to get into some questions. We're getting close to the end of the hour. And by the way, I really appreciate all my panelists because these guys are great at what they do. So Bob Hansen says, are you going to record this to see it later? Yes, everything's recorded. It's going to be sent out to everybody. Scott Stevens says, will questions be addressed? Yep, we're going to do it right now. We'll answer them right now. If anybody has additional questions, you can send it to mortgageshots@gmail.com. That's mortgageshots@gmail.com. Ken White says, and I believe this is for TJ, are you saying 4 conversations on day 1 or try to call them at least 4 times and keep it quick?
Call them 4 times.
Okay. All right. Karen, oh, I got old guy eyes. I think it's Kareem. I believe it's Kareem. Says, can you send the text app? Thank you. I don't know what he's talking about. Text app?
I think he's probably talking about Mighty Text.
Yeah, well, check out Mighty Text. I really like the functionality of it right now. I've had it for 1 day, and I think it's kind of cool. Kareem says, hope you guys are recording this. We certainly are. Jed Parrish says, Mighty Text is only for Android. What about for iOS? Do you have anything that's comparable for a Apple Mac?
Ring Central. Go to ringcentral.com, get a Ring Central phone, and start using Ring Central.
Okay, sounds good. We have Troy. Troy says, is Mighty Text only for Android? Okay, so we addressed that. Dennis says, how do we access the system? Okay, so I think you're talking about what Johnny is doing right now. Johnny's the guy who works outside of Hancock. He deals with loan officers. I know this because I can attest to it. I've seen it in action. It's why we're close friends. He's just out there trying to help everybody out. What we're going to do, Dennis, is we're going to reach out to you, and if it becomes available, which I believe it will, will certainly talk to you about using his system. Okay, Carlos says, we want Johnny's system now. All right, Carlos, we will reach out to you. Again, we're there. It's not beta testing at this point because I know enough about the process and the product that they're getting the results. In fact, I'll just be completely candid with you guys. We're using Johnny's system to get more people on Listing Booster and Pre-App 1003. It's great, and we will get that to you, Carlos. So make sure that you reach out to me at mortgageshots@gmail.com. Please, okay, mortgageshots@gmail.com. Okay, so Jeff says, do you have any email scripts that we can see that have gotten great responses? I, in fact, do, Jeff. I'll send those out to you, so if you want to, and I'll talk with these guys if they have different scripts. I'm assuming TJ probably does, correct? We'll get, in fact, I'm going to run this through TJ. TJ, what's your email?
TJ Barker at HancockMortgage.com.
Okay. And it doesn't matter if you work for Hancock or not, TJ Barker at HancockMortgage.com, and we'll get a bunch of nice scripts over for you. Rodney says, if you have an inactive database that hasn't been sent anything for over a year, is it too late? No, it's not too late. That's the whole point here, is that, again, we're assuming things on our timeline, not their timeline. You know, we have another guy, I think it is Chad, and, you know, it's basically you keep sending them messages because it doesn't take you any time or energy until they buy from you or tell you to go fuck yourself.
Yep.
All right, let's see. Brian Haggerty, what a great last name. Thank you, man. Totally appreciate it. Michael Ruffalo, thank you. Jeff says, there is a similar program in the market to this call. It's www.agentlegend.com, agentlegend.com. Check it out, okay? Carlos, great, totally appreciate that. All right, Robert, you got it? Okay, so again, there's a lot of people who want to hear more about what we're doing. Again, send a message to mortgageshots@gmail.com, mortgageshots@gmail.com. Don't do it here, I'm not going to get it. We're going to record this and send it out. And we will get the scripts out as well from TJ. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. Would you recommend these systems for a first-year loan officer? Hell yes. I absolutely would. A second year, 10. You know, this is okay. You get a loan officer who's done loans for 20 years. We get our built-in skill set and knowledge set that as we get older, becomes less bending. You know, we are set in our ways. It's the younger people who are looking and are open to different ways of marketing. I think this is a harder system for an older person to adopt than a younger person. So absolutely for the first year guy, Scott Stevens. But more importantly, if you're on this call right now and you've been doing loans for 10 or 15 years and you're kind of set in your way, what I'd ask you to do is take a rubber mallet and smack that hard part of your brain that's atrophied, loosen it up a little bit, and start to listen to what these younger guys have to say, because they've got systems that work. And keep in mind that the median age for somebody in loans right now is like 55, but the median age for somebody who's buying a house right now is 35. The 35-year-old does not remember a world without computers, so they communicate in ways that are different than us older folks. So I would recommend this, yes, for the younger person, but more importantly for the older guy. Mary Fung, yes, this is recorded. Scripts, yes, we got that one. Alan. But do you have anyone who can teach lead generation via paid and Facebook? Yeah, you want to call TJ. So Alan, I want you to call TJ. TJ, once again, give me your email.
TJ Barker at HancockMortgage.com.
Okay, and I think we're wrapping up here, guys. So Dennis, thank you. Stephen, great content, thank you. Alejandro, appreciate it. Yes, the scripts are coming, Dennis. Yes, awesome, thanks. Great show. Hey, listen, I've had a great panel. I feel like this is one of the better webinars we've had because the content has been great. Tony, I want to hook you up with Johnny. We're going to get your old leads and run it through there. Thank you so much, by the way, for reaching out to me, Tony. And I'm so happy that you're finding ways to succeed where you didn't find them yesterday, and you've got the stick-to-itness. That's really that's part of the glue for a great loan officer. So Tony, thank you. TJ, as always, your content's wonderful. If you want to speak with somebody on lead conversion, lead generation, who just looks at the business intuitively, you want to reach out to TJ, or you can find him on Facebook at Loan Officer Acceleration. You have a lot of people who charge a whole shit ton of money for stuff. That's not TJ's model. TJ's here to help people. reach out at Loan Officer Acceleration. These guys are great. I personally vouch for them. I work with them. I love what they do. They're in the right direction. Johnny Fowler, my great friend, as always, thank you so much for your time, dude. I will catch you next week, and we're going to road trip it through Death Valley. That's for another webinar. And for everybody who joined us today, thank you so much. I appreciate everything, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great day.
Thanks.